Assuming that all are comfortable with that.
Yes.
Very good. Thank you. By being on here, that it's your expressed consent to be rebroadcast. So why don't we get started here? It's good to have everybody gathered together. Thanks for joining. It's a very different way for us to do Bible study, but hopefully it'll be a good opportunity just to connect to study the Word together. First off, let's go around a little bit. We'll do a check-in, how everybody's doing. I'm going from my screens right in front of me. When I call on you, then you can just say a quick hello. Warren.
Hi guys, doing good here.
All right, we got Patty.
Hi, everybody. Glad to be here. Everything's going as well as it can be, so all's good.
Tom.
Good morning, everyone. Doing fine, working from home, getting bored, getting antsy.
Rich.
Yeah, same thing. I'm doing fine, but I'm getting bored. Can't wait to. It's a nice day, so I'm going to get out today for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, John.
Hey, I'm doing well. Working from home, hating every minute of it, but otherwise doing well.
Yeah. Lucky we can work from home, though. That's a good thing in a way.
Yeah, in a way, yes. Yeah.
Yep. Vicky, how are you?
I'm doing okay. But I think the favorite phrase I'm hearing from people is hanging in there, and that's what I'm doing, hanging in there.
Morning, Derek.
Morning. Again, everything is great, as great as it can be. And just to echo everybody's sentiments, getting bored out of my mind. But hopefully, this is going to pass soon.
Mm-hmm. Derek, good morning.
Hey.
How we doing there?
Well, everything is good. I guess you guys know what retirement is going to look like when you get there. So every day is just the same for me. Nothing has changed. I'm sheltering in place. And my wife out.
Not really.
But look, thank God my health is good.
Good. Russ, good morning.
Good morning. Still going to work every day. Not liking it, but deemed essential. And working from home occasionally, but other than that, doing pretty good. It's just boring when, I'm not out.
The commute must be okay, though, huh, Russ?
What was that?
The commute must be okay.
Oh, the commute's awesome. I can make it to work in 17 minutes.
Yeah.
So are people actually buying cars, Russ?
Believe it or not, we're delivering anywhere from 4 to 7 a day.
Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah,
People have nothing better to
I
do.
mean, look, I understand people needing a car, but you don't need a Mercedes.
So I just wanted to tell everybody, in case you don't know, just to keep Alice and my daughter in your thoughts, because she is due on April 28th.
Oh my gosh.
It's kind of a stressful time, especially since Brian, her husband, is not working.
Yeah.
But hopefully he'll be able to get into she's having the baby up at Yale University Hospital.
Okay. Yeah, not an easy time at all, for sure.
Hopefully she doesn't name the baby COVID. Or Corona.
How about Sharona?
No. Nothing with an Ona in it.
I hear you.
No onas.
Well, one positive note, I had to go for a checkup at
Kids
St.
going
Francis.
Hey,
around
Rob.
the
Morning.
Corona generation.
Did I
Yeah,
freeze?
for sure. Hey, I saw Rob came in. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning.
Rob,
Morning.
So the joke is that in 13 years from now, there's going to be a bunch of kids running around calling themselves the quarantines.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
think
good.
9 months from now, we're gonna have a lot of babies born too.
Yeah, nobody's having babies, Todd.
Yeah, that's from people who don't already have kids.
And homeschooling to do.
I feel like I have a kid in physical contact with me 24 hours a day these days.
My son is home from college and he's eating us at a house and home.
Yeah, right. I've been exercising more, but it's to counteract with all the extra ice cream I've been eating. Well, why don't we start with some prayer, and then this is going to be a very loosely formed Bible study. We'll just have some conversation to look at the scripture for this weekend. The Lord be with you.
Also,
Also with you.
Also with you.
Let us pray. Gracious God, as your disciples walked along that road to Emmaus, full of fear, full of doubt, full of questions, you appeared among them. Lord, it was hard for them to see you at first, amid all those questions and fear. But there you were, walking along with them, ready to reveal yourself when their eyes were ready to be opened. Lord, open our eyes that we can see you while we live in a world full of fear, full of doubt, and full of questions. Make our hearts and our minds and our eyes ready and open to see you walking alongside of us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so today we are going to focus on our gospel reading for today. That's what we've been doing for all of our worship services each week. And we're continuing with the post-resurrection time for Jesus and the disciples. We have a pretty well-known passage today, a long one. This is known as the road to Emmaus. The story of when the disciples were walking along the road. I am going to try and share let me see if I can pull it up here.
pretty easy. Once you hit the share button, it pops up what you want to share.
I know, but I was going to try and share my Bible app, and it's not letting me do that. I'll have to do it from Oramus.
You can't share your desktop?
I'm doing it from my iPad, so
Oh, yeah. The iPad is limited.
it is. I wasn't oh, well, if I do the screen. No, it's not going to let me do it from there. All right, so I'm just going to read it for this week, and then I'll figure out how to do this better. I'll have it up in a Word document so I can share it for next week for you. But our gospel is from Luke, chapter 24, verses 13 through 35. Tom, I saw that you were pulling out a Bible as we were going. As you get there, would you mind reading it for us?
Okay.
Derek's got it too.
13 to 35?
Yeah, Luke
Okay.
24, 13 through
I got it.
35. Okay.
Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days? He asked them, What things? They replied, The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the third day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory? Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over. So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us? That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon. Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread.
All right, thanks, Tom. So a lot had taken place in Jerusalem on that week that Jesus died and he rose from the dead. Life had no longer made sense to the followers of Jesus. Some had already left Jerusalem, talking about the events of the week. So Jesus appears to two men who were walking from Jerusalem to a town called Emmaus. Jesus walks with them, but they don't recognize him. So notice how these anxious and disturbed men, they're in contrast to a serene Jesus. And pretty patiently, Jesus, he listens as they recount the events that are talking about him. But they don't recognize Jesus right there beside him. So what do you think is going through the disciples as they're walking on that road? What do you think's going on with them?
Well, they obviously don't know who they're walking with.
Yep.
Probably trying to size him up and see what he's about.
I mean, I think they're just so filled with their own fear in their own heads that they can't even realize what's going on around them.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Anybody else? Why do you think that they're not able to recognize Jesus?
Hopelessness and despair.
Mm.
And they're not looking for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they assume he's dead and they assume he's gone, that somebody's stolen the body, and so they're not sure. So they're not looking, they're not seeking.
I guess maybe they're not believing that he rose, so that's why they don't recognize him. I've always had that question: why don't they recognize him?
Sure. Yeah, when you look at a lot of these post-resurrection accounts, usually the person doesn't recognize Jesus at first. And throughout the ages, theologians have debated why that is. Some say he looks different, and that's why they don't know that it's him, or they think that he's somebody else. But it might just be as simple as, even if he looked the exact same, it's so far out of their comprehension that he could appear that their brains just wouldn't even process that it could possibly be Jesus there. You know, it's just as if one of our relatives that have passed away suddenly appeared in front of us. You know, even if we know them, our brains just couldn't even comprehend the fact that they're there with us. And yeah, they're filled with fear. I mean, look at what happened to not just them, but everybody who followed Jesus in the days that had preceded that. Everybody either ran away or it looked like they were going down along with him. So they're filled with fear. You know, in fact, and this isn't really part of the Bible study, but think about it. They don't know who this guy is that's talking to them. But they still tell this story about Jesus to this person. They don't know if this is a sympathizer. They don't know if this is somebody that is a friend, or if it's somebody that's going to have them arrested, somebody that could be a threat to them. In some ways, even in their fear, they're showing some faithfulness, right?
Maybe Jesus didn't want to be recognized at that point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, does it mean anything that it says their eyes were kept from recognizing him?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good catch there from both of you. You know, was it willful from them, or was it just not their time yet? Were they not in the right place to see? You know, if we put it in our own context, how many times are we in a situation in life where we really don't see the meaning of what's going on or understand the importance of it at the time because we're not in the right frame of mind at that point? And it's only maybe later on we look back and we realize the significance of what had happened.
Right. Definitely.
So,
I think that happens a lot in our
Mhm.
lives, and we just don't realize it.
I think it's happening right now.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, you look back and it's really significant what's happened. Although
Sure.
a month and a half ago, we didn't realize how things were going to be.
Yeah. No, 100%. Even when this was starting, I don't think anybody recognized just the depth of what we'd be dealing with here.
Yeah, we
And the
just
length
gotta,
of time.
yeah, we thought it's the flu.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, it's the flu. What's the big deal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we figured this was going to be a couple weeks of a disruption and then everything will be back to business as normal, and that's not the case.
No.
It's hard to process things when you're in the middle of them, though. I mean, you can take things in, but you really can't put them in order or sort them all out while it's going on a lot of times, especially when it's something that could be overwhelming, like the situation now.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, it's very much like a conversation I was having with a friend last night, and she was trying to make sense of something that had happened in her past, and you know, she couldn't really see what the connection was to how her faith life had progressed. And I was able to ask her some questions, and then she was able to see that how that event in her life had led her to where she was today. And that's what I told her. I said, that's why it's so important that we do meet together, that we do talk to each other and be vulnerable with each other, because that's where that openness comes. It was when those disciples got vulnerable with the person they were walking with that they opened up their hearts, and then Jesus was able to show them everything.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah,
that's what
for
we can
sure.
do for each other every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it leads into our next questions here. Jesus, He tells the two men, and I think he's a little bit harsh here. He tells them that they're foolish for not being able to make sense of and believe in the risen Christ. And then he proceeds to interpret the things that were foretold in the Old Testament, from Moses all the way through the prophets. And as he teaches, kind of like Vicky was just saying, Jesus connects the past to the current reality. So what do you think it would have been like to walk with Jesus on that road? What kind of questions would you ask Jesus if you were on that road with him?
Well, it would be hard because whether if you, like them, if they didn't recognize him, you wouldn't have known what to ask.
Yeah. Okay.
But I kind of believe that as they were opening while Jesus was opening their hearts to all of his teachings, I think it probably would have led to some questions of, like, why did this have to happen? And why did Jesus have to be crucified? That was, they struggled with that as much as we struggle with it today.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Anybody else? What kind of questions would you ask Jesus?
I would ask him, what's going to happen now? Where do we go from here? Changed.
I had you in the beginning, and then I lost you, Kurt.
Yeah, I couldn't hear him either.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't hear it.
Wow. I'm technically challenged. So.
No, we got you now.
Okay, maybe
Is that where Derek gets it from?
Yeah.
Just lean into the camera.
All right, I'll try leaning in.
We don't have to be in the same room to bust each other's chops.
It's a typical Bible study for us.
I still love you, Kurt.
I'd ask him, like, where do we go from here? What is life going to be like? Will you be with us? How long are you going to be here? Are you going to be able to help us? What do we do?
Yeah, it's great that we got, if you had Jesus in the here and now, but where are we going? What's on the end of that road for those two men?
I think
and then the same for us.
I think it's with this virus. We don't really see what's going to happen. We know that one day it will end, but I think our lives will be impacted forever. I spoke to my daughter the other day, and I said, I went through myself. I went through the assassination of a president, Kennedy, and I said, will that ever happen in my lifetime again? Probably not. I'm 72, so that happened 50 some odd years ago, so I'll probably never see that again. And then men walking on the moon, will that ever happen in my lifetime? I doubt it. It was 9/11, planes flying into the World Trade Center. That ever happen again? I think terrorism will be with us, but I don't think it will be the impact it was on 9/11. And now this virus, will we ever go through this again, where it just impacts your health, the economy, people's lives have been disrupted. People lost their jobs. Myself and Peggy, we both have incomes coming in, and really nothing has changed for us. But I know a lot of people impact them maybe forever. That things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you look back at these two men on the road, similar, right? they're in the midst of a traumatic event, and their lives are never going to be the same after that. So we have these things that come upon us that kind of rock our worlds, and now our lives, they go off into a different trajectory that we never would have anticipated, whether it's us personally or the world as a whole.
But what I try to hold on to is how, yes, this is impacting my life, however significant it is. But in all of the events in my life over the last, hopefully 10 years or so, more so than when I was younger, I try to look at those instances and those events and try to see how I could use them to better my life and to make changes in my life. And, especially this virus has really opened my eyes to how dependent I was on normal everyday things, seeing my grandchildren. I haven't hugged them in over a month, and, and just the simple act of having to ration toilet paper, were things that, you never thought we would ever have to do. And it really made me realize how dependent I am on such earthly things. And it's really made me really go inside and get pretty introspective at times as to what really counts.
And Vicki, along with that, I mean, how many people are thinking that deeply about it? We're happen to be people who think about, what's in it for me? How am I going to come out of it? They might not think that deeply because they're just thinking of their personal needs at this particular time. It's going to be interesting to see how we all come out of this. It's something to look forward to, and you always hope that people will be, introspective and learn from this in some way, shape, or form. But not everybody's of the same cloth, as they say. So
yeah, right on.
Yeah.
This reminds me of the age-old question, why do bad things happen to good people?
Right.
Like a friend of mine, unfortunately, just passed away from corona. He was, in his 50s. He was healthy. Went to the hospital, and unfortunately, put him on a respirator, and it went downhill from there. So that impacted me pretty closely. And we're all thinking, why? Why did this happen to him? And why did this happen at all? I mean, where did this come from? What's God's plan that this is, impacting our world the way it is right now?
No, it's a good and relevant question that a lot of people are asking right now. The question is it God that has done this, or is it a product of our broken world? And, to what Vicki and Patty were saying, and Rich was bringing up, these things happen to us, and now it's our choice of what we're going to make of it. Because we could just, weather the storm for a couple months or a year and go right back to the way that things were, individually or as a world. Or we could take this as an opportunity to reshift things, our perspective, the way that we operate, and that's our choice. God's not going to force that upon us. Rob, it looked like you were about to say something there.
No, I was talking to my wife.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right.
Well, I think if we compare this to 9/11, after 9/11, everybody was so nice to each other, holding doors and that. But after a month, 2 months, after it all wore off, they find today that people are more nicer, the right word. They nod to you. What is my now? You say stay safe out there. And
Mm-hmm.
run into someone or you speak to them on the phone. Safe, careful out there. But I wonder how long that's going to last. Is it going to last a month? And when everything calms down and people are back to beaches and doing whatever they normally do, they probably go back to the old.
Yeah, and I mean, the reality is for some people, this will be a blip and then it'll be as if nothing ever happened, whether it's right away or, years down the road. But like 9/11, I mean, there are some people that they changed their life
Right.
after that and still are living a different life because of that experience. Others, it might be small things that have changed. May not be a completely different world anymore, but there's still, little hints of that hold on. My hope is that, at least for me personally, is, that at the very minimum, that there's a few little things that I and my family will hold on to through this. It's silly. Go ahead, Vicki.
No,
first.
go ahead. You finish your thought.
No, it's silly, and this is, not of any great depth at all, but it's amazing to me that it took this before my family started taking regular bike rides together.
Right.
I mean, that's so silly and trivial, but it's those little things that hopefully if we can just hold on to that, I think that we can try and make a little bit of good come from this awful situation. Vicki, go ahead, please.
I mean, that was kind of what I was, that's my daily prayer, is that this somehow does change me, that it opens my eyes, and I think for myself personally, one of the areas I've been, because of what I do working at the church, my eyes have been so much more opened lately to the plight of the Latino community. And to listen to Pastor Patty and to talk to her, what that community is going through, my heart just breaks. And, I keep praying daily, God, show me how I can help this community, how I can support these people, because, me living in my nice little home with my manicured lawn, I have no idea what it's like to scrimp and save and to try to barely make ends meet, and to worry the fact that I need to go out into the world, into this virus, just in order to hopefully be able to put a couple of meals a week on a table. It really has made me feel like I need to look at my privilege so much differently and to see what I can give up.
I think it's made me think about actually how lucky I really am, because I mean I have income coming in. I'm retired now, so I got a pension, Social Security, stuff like that. But then the other day, Patty and I was sitting down and we were wondering what's happening to all the homeless people that we sheltered. I mean, we had to shut down early because of the virus. What are they doing? I mean, they have no place to go. Do they have some place where they, even just a simple thing to go to the bathroom, libraries aren't open right now, other places, how are they getting food and stuff? So I think of it this way, that although this virus is going around, I feel very privileged that I don't have to worry about stuff like that right now. I have a steady income that hopefully won't go away by any means or anything, but think about that there.
No, very true. Very true on both accounts, both sides of that. I mean, the fact that we have homes that we can stay in while we shelter in place is an incredible gift that we take for granted a lot of times. Along with those Latinos, we have members who are being threatened to be evicted at this point. And our immediate response is, well, you're not allowed to do that. Well, if you're not a documented person, you don't have any recourse to stop that. And we have members that if they don't pay their rent, they're going to get kicked out and be homeless. We have homeless people who have nowhere to go now.
I actually just got a notification the other day from one of the people who keeps in contact with me. 3 of them have passed away recently. You know,
Oh, wow.
one of them that I
About
knew
vulnerable.
very well, and the other 2 that I knew a little bit just from them coming in. You know, but 3 of them have passed away.
Yeah.
So the 2 men, they still don't perceive that it's Jesus who's walking with them and teaching them, even when he's opening up the scripture to them. They still don't get it. But then Jesus stays with them for dinner. The scene, it's reminiscent of the Last Supper. So Jesus, again, he takes bread, he blesses it, he breaks it, and he gives it to them. And it's in the breaking of the bread that their eyes are finally open. They finally see Jesus. But then, just as soon as they recognize Jesus, what happens?
It's gone.
Anybody catch that?
Yeah, he disappears.
Yeah.
Poof. As soon as they see him, he's gone. So what kind of connections are there between this meal and the Last Supper?
Well, the breaking of the bread,
Uh-huh.
you know, it was, they were sharing communion. It was, they were in community with each other.
And that he was, during the Last Supper, he said, you know, I'm going to be leaving you to be with my Father. And all of a sudden now he's gone again.
Yeah, good connections, both. So why do you think he disappeared so quickly?
Well, I think that's kind of leads to our human condition. You know, a lot of times when we recognize that God is there with us in a situation, you know, immediately we're on to the next situation and we're wondering again, where is he?
Maybe
Yeah,
it
these, go ahead.
Well, maybe it was to, you know, impact them so much they'll talk about it and keep spreading the word that, yeah,
Okay.
we saw him,
Yeah.
we saw him again.
Mm-hmm.
But then he left and because it was so supernatural. They're like, oh, what was that? We need to talk about this.
Or did that really happen? You know?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
thinking
But they'll
too.
talk about it anyway, right?
My
They'll talk
hallucination.
about, did it really happen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but Patty, to your point, how easy would it have been for him just to say, oh, we must have just had a hallucination
Right. We
and
were drunk.
explain it away?
Yeah, a little too much wine.
Too much
Yeah.
wine.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah. Oh my gosh, we've been walking too long on this road. We're losing it.
Right. The
Yeah.
sun is hitting me. Yeah. The whole thing.
And really, though, how often do we in our daily lives have those opportunities where it might be that Jesus is right there with us and we explain it away?
Right. We dismiss it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But it is, like Rich said, only when we talk about it, when we talk about it with others, that's when it becomes real. That's when it becomes more personal.
Right on. Yeah, but it also reminds us just how those moments can be fleeting. When Jesus appeared to any of the disciples, he never stayed with them. He stayed briefly. Remember, Mary told her not to hold on to him.
Yeah.
You know, I don't, whether he wanted to skip out before the check got there or he had other places to be, he had the motor. But it is a reminder that we may have those interactions in our daily life, but you can't take it for granted because those moments, they're fleeting.
But I think that also speaks to the point of that we need to take those moments, and
Yeah.
those moments need to become part of us. You know, they
Right on.
need to be inside of us, so that when we have future moments, they're still there in our memory and in our hearts to go back to. You know, one of the big things in spiritual direction is consolation and desolation. And it's in your times of desolation, you have to remember your times of consolation. You have to remember when you did feel God, and you have to remember his promises, because that is what ends up leading you back into consolation.
Mhm.
I think you have to connect those moments.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's when we hold on to those moments that it makes us more open to seeing future moments, right? You know, I think our faith journey is a lot of inertia. You know, you talk to people who are struggling in their faith and it's hard to get it going. And on the flip side of that, as it gets going, as we have experiences with Jesus, it's amazing when we have the one, it makes us that much more open to the next one, and the next one, and the next one.
On camera.
Huh?
On camera.
And it's those times also when I finally realize in the moment that, oh, you're there, God. I can see your work right in front of me.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Long ago, I wouldn't have recognized that. And now I'm seeing it a whole lot more.
Right on. Well, thank you, everybody. It's a good conversation. Hopefully, we'll keep our eyes open, our hearts open, that we can see Jesus in amidst all this mess that we have in the world, you know, these days. But it's good to be able to connect.
Yes.
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 So the plan is every Saturday at 9 a.m. We'll do another study. It'll be based on the gospel for that weekend. So make your coffee, make your breakfast, come on and join us each week.
Sounds good.
Justin, can you send out the reading ahead of time?
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be good.
So we could read it a little bit before?
Absolutely.
And is it the same meeting code every week, Pastor?
Yeah.
Okay.
My ID is going to be the same. Just if I ever have a Bible study or anything, my meeting ID is the same for everything all the time.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
So you'll be able to come right in. Yeah. What I'll do, Patty, is in our daily emails, I'll put what the lesson is going to be in there so that you're able to read it to get ready.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, that's
Thank
good.
you.
Great. Good idea.
You'll get more feedback that way too.
Yeah. Very good. All right, guys. Well, it's a beautiful day.
Okay.
We have one beautiful day amid all this rain that's coming in. So
That's right.
responsibly and socially distanced, get outside and enjoy it.
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Definitely.
Thanks for leading
All right,
us.
everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
take care.
Thank you.
Tomorrow
Thank you,
morning,
Pastor.
10 a.m. for worship.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be there.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right, later.